stranger, and there's no explaining where you stand, and you wouldn't know that you sometimes have to go round an unexpected bend, and the road will lead to a new world.
Come into our house of hope and love, of peace and justice, of wholeness and healing. Come in where we welcome the certain and the seeking, the long-timers and the newcomers, the beloved and the brokenhearted. All of you can find a home here at Throop, where we go love the world from the heart of Pasadena and from the heart of our homes. Welcome to those joining us on the live stream today. In the month of January in worship, we've been thinking all about the ways we reshape our lives. And today we're going to be thinking and talking about how we reshape the culture of a congregation, and why would we even want to do that? And then also one way that we have been loving the world almost for the past year now is by our congregational involvement with a group called Pasadena 100. That's a group made up of over 20 environmental nonprofits. And the 100 piece of that is that we've been urging the city of Pasadena to commit to 100% carbon-free energy by 2030. And guess what, you all? We are so close to making that happen. You are invited to be at City Hall tomorrow at 5 o'clock. They are going to be voting on a resolution that declares a climate emergency, and as a part of that, directing the city utility to do all they can to get to 100% carbon-free energy by what year? 2030! This is huge, and so many of you were at the big rally we had at City Hall in October, and we've been pushing and pushing and pushing, and when we're so close. So if you're able to be where tomorrow? City Hall at what time? I will see you there. I'm going to get there at 6:30. I have another meeting. Okay. Each one of us is a light in the world, and the flame from our chalice symbolizes and reflects that light.
Our time together in worship is intimately connected within our daily lives. As a symbol of that connection, we light our chalice with a flame from our candles of hope and witness. May we be refreshed from the inside out with the water of life and spirit. May we be open to the presence of all that is within us and help us see how our lives are reshaped each day. May our fears be calmed, our imaginations animated, and our hearts open for this time of discovery. We light a second candle to honor the people and ancestors whose lands we now occupy. The land under and around Throop was once and is still the home of the Gabrielino Tongva Band of Mission People. May this knowledge and awareness lead us into seeking justice and equity for all. We light a third candle symbolizing our watershed, the Arroyo Seco. May their waters continue to nourish life in our communities, and we take a moment of silence, holding all of these in our hearts.
And our opening hymn this morning is Will the Circle Be Unbroken? The lyrics have been slightly adapted from a song maybe you've heard before. As your body and spirit allow, you're invited to rise and to sing. We are recommending masks for those singing. And again, please rise, and the lyrics are in your order of worship.
Will the circle be unbroken by and by, Lord, by and by? There's a better way to live now. We can have it if we try. I was singing with
And turn gently to your neighbor and welcome them into worship this morning.
I was dancing with my family, I was dancing with my friends, and we all can dance together, 'cause the circle never ends. Will the circle be unbroken by and by, oh by and by? There's a better way to live now, we can have it if we try. I was praying with my family, I was praying with my friends, and we all can pray together, 'cause the circle never ends. Will the circle be unbroken by and by,
Lord,
oh, by and by?
There's a better way to live now. We can have it if we try.
I was laughing with my family,
I was laughing with my friends.
and we all
And
can
sing
laugh
together, 'cause the circle never ends.
Will the circle be unbroken by and by, oh by and by? There's a better way to live now, we can have it if we try.
We like to keep our circle as whole and as unbroken as we can here. If you are new to Throop and you want to stay in touch and in community, there are info cards in the little back of the pew right in front of you, and we invite you to fill that out. And a little bit later in the service, you can turn it in. You'll see these offering plates come down the aisle, and again, we would love to stay in touch with you. Our responsive reading this morning comes from Starhawk, and the congregation's response is open us to the ongoing reshaping of our lives. I invite you to say that together now. Open us to the ongoing reshaping of our lives. We are all longing to go home to someplace we have never been, a place half remembered, half envisioned. We can only catch glimpses of it from time to time. It's community. Open us to the ongoing reshaping of our lives. Somewhere there are people to whom we can speak with passion without having all the words, without having those words catch in our throats. Somewhere there is a circle of hands open and ready to receive us, eyes that will light up as we enter, and voices that celebrate each and every time we come into our own power. Open us to the ongoing reshaping of our lives. Community means strength. Strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. It means arms to hold us when we falter, a circle of healing, a circle of friends, someplace where we can be free. Open us to the ongoing reshaping of our lives. Today, we bring up our very own Throop players. They have been led today by Melanie Hooks. We're so glad she's back with us from her travels in Texas, and they will share a story called The Committee.
Hooray, green light. Fantastic. We even have the tech committee on board today. Yep. Fittingly, this piece is called The Committee, which is great for you, church, right? There is a committee. A committee that lives inside my head, all seemingly a part of me, of who I am. And yet, at times, I feel I am at war with myself. Within myself, until I feel I am without myself. Sometimes I wander among the committee, among what feels like ruins, pondering, wondering whatever happened to disjoint, disturb, disrupt the whole that is me. Go back to where you belong. There is a committee. A committee. Inside my head.
I am different.
We can all do this together. Let's work together.
We need a plan.
We gotta keep it real, baby.
I want it my way.
Hurry up.
What if?
A simple decision becomes a giant task.
A relationship becomes so complicated.
A dream dies.
Fear gets the better of me.
I fly off the handle.
I deny my sexuality.
I quash my passion.
I wallow in uncertainty.
Oh, the committee. The committee is recognizable. I try each one on for size, and they all fit. Oh, gracious. Just a moment. Dramatic pause. The realist and the dreamer collide. But they are separated by the wall, which I construct in order to protect each piece. But what happens if they are allowed to dance with one another? The realist fine-tuning and the dreamer urging on? The eager and spontaneous, well cast, yes, irritates the orderly. But they are frozen as I fight to defend the rights of both. But what happens if they are allowed to dance with one another? Order and spontaneity combine, birthing creativity. Lovely. Lovely. Impatience, meets with his friend, stubbornness. Impatience meets with stubbornness, and the nonconformist makes demands. And all the while, the mediator pleads frighteningly, afraid of the passion which lives within. But what if they dance, play, push and pull that turns to give and take? What if they are allowed this relating? If they are allowed this joy? Oh, yes! That's why improv rules. Can I let go? Oh. Not of my committee, but of my own tight grip around the throat of my own potential. Potential fire, passion, caring, groundedness, freedom, love. Can I see that which is holy and fine, that which is me, whole and holy, just as I am?
Holy, 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 my heart adores you. My heart knows how to say to you, holy are you. My heart knows how to say to you, holy are you.
Thank you so much, Throop players. And each week we invite the youngest ones among us into their Kids Dig In program. And today's leaders are Jamie and Carson. Thank you so much for being with our children. And we sing them into that program. The words are in your order of worship.
For you shall go out in joy, for you shall go out in joy and come back in peace, and come back in peace. For you shall go out in joy, for you shall go out in joy and come back in peace, and come back in peace. Blessed be.
And our pondering moment is called Waiting by Marta Valentin. Step into the center, come in from the margins. I will hold you there. Don't look around or back. Feel my arms, the water is rising. I will hold you as you tremble. I will warm you. Don't look out or away. Life is in here between you and me. And this tiny space where you end and I begin, hope lives. In this precious tiny space, no words need to be whispered to tell us we are one. You and I, we make the circle if we choose to. Come, step in. I am waiting for you.
Love knocks and waits for us to hear, to open and invite. Love longs to quiet every fear and seeks to set things right. Love comes to heal the broken heart, to ease the troubled mind. Without a word, love bids us start to ask and seek and find. Love knocks and enters at the sound of welcome from within. Love sings and dances all around and feels new life begin.
This church is ours through our gifts of time and talent and treasure. We create a strong and beautiful circle of care and compassion. Today, you are invited to offer a donation to the church if you are able to. You can give online. Those ways are in the order of worship, or Steve will put them in the live stream chat. If you're here in the room, you can give a donation in our offering plate. You can also hand in that info card if you filled it out. If your gift today is going toward your annual pledge, we ask that you use the green envelope in the pew back in front of you, and to mark pledge and to make sure your name is on it. If you're a first-time visitor, please let the offering plate pass you by. The morning offering will now be gratefully received.
Let this be a house of peace, of nature and humanity, of sorrow and elation. Let this be our house, a haven for the healing, an open room for question and our inspiration. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of freedom, guardian of dignity and worth held deep inside us. Let this be our house, a platform for the free voice, where all our sacred differences shall not here divide us. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of truth, where scientists and mystics abide in reverence here. Let this be our house of myth and lore and legend, our trove of ancient story, a this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace.
In a spirit of gratitude, we lift up our thanks to all of those whose hands and arms and hearts have helped shape this morning's worship service. I offer up thanks to Steve, our live stream operator, to Abby, who offered our chalice lighting words, to Jamie and Carson with the children's program, Caroline and Charles for greeting and taking the offering, Cynthia, our coffee and conversation host, Megan on music, Throop players for bringing the committee to life, and Hillary for her administrative support. And then yesterday we had some of our garden team people come in. If you have been noticing our garden looking more and more lovely, I'd like to lift up thanks to those who spent Saturday morning in the garden. They probably pulled a lot of weeds thanks to the recent rains. And those are David, Gordon, Marissa, Clara, Jamal, Michael, Charles, and Paula. And so as we give thanks for the morning offering, as we give thanks for the many ways you hold and care for this community, we say our words of gratitude together, and those are in the order of worship. For the ministries of the church and our community, we bless our offering with love and hope. I invite you to take a breath in together and exhale. Spring is in the air. As I mentioned, the rains have brought so much new life into our gardens, in sidewalk cracks, everywhere things are bursting. And each week we take a moment of gratitude for our earth, and we share together the words for our promise to our planet. As members of the family of living beings on earth, we are guided by the Unitarian Universalist principle of respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. With hearts filled with love for it, eyes nurtured by its beauty, and minds ruminating on ways to protect its sacred and scarce resources, we promise to nurture the well-being of all life and of the planet itself. Our centering hymn is number 155. It's in that gray hymnal, Circle Round for Freedom.
Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned. Circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace,
take another breath in together. Exhale. Gently close your eyes. Let your body come into a sense of rest and stillness. We breathe into our circle of care. We breathe out, inviting a sense of peace within ourselves, within others, within the world. This past week, the circle of our wider community has been filled with grief. Last Sunday, 11 people died in Monterey Park due to gun violence. They had gathered in a community that held them. They had arrived there, imagining an evening filled with dance and laughter and good friends. These are people who had full lives, people who loved them and counted on them. They were grandparents, parents, siblings, friends, spouses. Valentino, Hong Yin, Yulan, Lillian, Mai, Ming, Diana, Mui, Chia, Wen, Zuwan. We breathe into all that was their life, and we hold a moment of stillness together. Breath of life and breath of love, may we do all that we can to enlarge our own circles. May we continue to move in the world in a way that promotes our values of love, compassion, and justice. And in the days to come, when we are lonely, when we feel isolated, if we feel apart, remind us that there are arms to hold us when we falter, that there is a circle of healing, a circle of friends. May our actions and our care for all life keep our circle whole. And for all that is our life, we give our thanks and praise. Amen.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these flowers. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, it is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. It is time now, it is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
A few weeks ago, Terry and I were invited into the home of a mutual friend. Her name is Susan. And Susan's home is warm and lovely. The walls are full of art that she's collected over the years. And Susan playfully calls herself the janky seamstress. And as she talked, she showed us her most recent sewing project. So Susan brought us over to a large box, and she took the lid off, and she pulled out a beautiful, colorful quilt. And as she unfolded it, Terry and I gasped with pleasure just at how beautiful it was. The quilt has a white background, and there are interlocking pieces of red patterned fabric with little bits of blue thrown in here and there for contrast. And it's stitched together in oval and square shapes. So as Susan explained the quilt to us, she told us that her grandmother, Annie, had pieced it together many, many years ago. And through the years, with use and age, the edges have started to fray, and some of the pieces had torn or worn away. Susan told us that this lovely family heirloom is considered a legacy piece because it's the last remaining tangible item from that generation. And Susan plans to bring it back to life in all of its glory, back into use by repairing the tattered cloth pieces. Do any of you have family quilts that are maybe languishing somewhere high up on a shelf or tucked away? Melanie does. Yeah, anyone else? Teresa, Wendy, George? Watching Susan smile as she tenderly held that quilt, it reminded me of a couple of my own great-grandmother's quilts that I have stowed away in a cedar chest. They're fragile, and I'm almost afraid to touch them because I'm worried the old fabric will disintegrate in my hands. This January, we've been considering change in our lives. We started the month with a ritual that helped us get rid of the old and welcome the new in this calendar year. Then we thought about ways we can reshape our lives, reminding ourselves that even though change is hard, we were made to do it. And then last week, Harlow Robinson offered a stunning, moving sermon about his own life and something that probably all of us in this room have had to do once or twice or more, which is the act of physical moving, and how just moving into a new home can really help us reshape the way we think about ourselves or about community. And today we are looking at church and cultural change. Ministers often talk about church time and about how change in our churches usually happens really, really slowly. And you can look at any of our board members in here. Look, they're laughing right now, Maureen and Harlow, about how long it takes to just do what you would think is the simplest of tasks. And there are many reasons for this, but one is that church leaders and staff, we feel really responsible for each and every one of you here. And we feel really responsible for this sacred space that holds us. And we worry that too much disruption might be like holding an old quilt in our hands. We're scared that with too much shaking, that the fabric of the community will turn to dust and disintegrate. And I think another reason it takes a little while to make change happen in religious communities is that if you have decided to make Throop your religious and spiritual home, you've probably done that because you like the way it feels in here. Now, sure, maybe you would want to change out this carpet, and if you do, please, let's talk after the service, because I do too. And maybe you'd rearrange the tables a little bit or do this or that, but, really the community life you discovered here, you're here because it's helped you find a sense of belonging. It's helped you live your values in the world, and it helps you make meaning in your life. So why would you want to change this? I mean, it feels pretty good. Well, part of our purpose as a liberal, progressive religion is to offer an expansive embrace, to create a place where the wholeness and the holiness of each and every one of you can be welcomed and celebrated. And we still have work to do to create a church where each person can be welcomed for all of who they are, where when they come in our doors or come in on our live stream, that they don't have to deny any part of themselves to feel like they can find a home here. Almost a decade ago, Unitarian Universalist minister Rosemary Bray McNatt wrote a piece entitled, "UUs Must Change." And in it, Bray McNatt reminds us that despite our very best intention to be a church that welcomes anyone who comes in, that we also have a specific, distinct culture that can sometimes be alienating. Culture is so hard to see for those of us that feel comfortable in a place, or for those of us that are continually seeing our identities reflected in it. Culture has been described as like a fish swimming in water, and there's a little story about these two young fish. They're swimming along, and all of a sudden coming toward them is an older fish who nods at them and says, "Morning, y'all. How's the water?" And the two young fish, they swim on their little fish ways for a little bit, and eventually one of them looks over and says, "What in the Sam Hill is water?" It's like you can't see it when you're swimming in it. And what's the water that we swim in here at Throop? What are some of the cultural attributes that we carry that maybe we're not even aware of? Anybody want to venture one? And if I can hear you from up here, I'll repeat it back so our friends on live stream can hear. Oh, George said insecurity. That might be, yeah. We're going to welcome in your insecurity if you are feeling that. One cultural attribute maybe comes through in our art of sermons in Unitarian Universalism and at Throop, where maybe you're going to hear the New York Times quoted, or a contemporary novel, or a piece of poetry. Or maybe it's in the form of our worship service, which feels so familiar to us. A worship service in style that I love, and that is also steeped in a kind of white Protestant way of worshiping. I know some of you who come from pagan communities, I really appreciate what you are able to bring into our service, because I feel like you help us open it up a little bit and help us explore and be creative. In her essay, Bray McNatt offers some powerful questions regarding our Unitarian Universalist culture. She asks, how do we encounter those whose experience of church is different from this? How do we encounter those whose experience of the holy is really different from ours? Where do they enter into the culture of Unitarian Universalist religious community? She asks, how do all of us convert our own ignorance into wisdom? How do we manage our shame and our earnestness? How do we manage our resistance to change, but also our desire to know more about each and every person here? When we at Throop talk about celebrating the wholeness and holiness of each other, a part of that is being able to acknowledge and appreciate the differences among us here. We may shy away sometimes from the ways that we're different. It feels really good to know all the ways that we are alike. But it's in these differences where we find out more about each other. But I think sometimes maybe we're a little scared to explore those because we're afraid that when we do, it will start to tear a hole in this beautiful quilt, the fabric of our community. But you know that all of the different pieces of you that make up who you are, whether it is your cultural background, whether it's your language, the music you love, your gender identity and expressions, your sexual orientation, everything that makes you, you makes up this amazing, beautiful, incredible person. So of course we want to know the fullness of who you are. And finding a way forward in our congregations, Bray McNatt writes that we must change our culture. We must grieve the loss of the familiar and gain some measure of courage to embrace the new. These things are work of the Spirit. These things call us to be faithful to what Unitarian theologian James Luther Adams' observation that church is where we practice what it means to be human. And of course, culture is not a bad thing. It creates safety among members. It creates a sense of belonging. It creates values and shared stories and expectations. And we know it can also create boundaries, can create narrow circles that keep some people out on the margins. And my guess is most of us in this room, regardless of what identities we carry, have been in some space in our lives where we've been the one who's been out on the margin for some reason or another. Episcopal priest Eric Law writes and leads groups in exploring culture, difference, and community boundaries. And he asks, how do we keep people in or out of our communities? Where do we feel safe and where do we feel vulnerable? He says that boundaries can sometimes become too rigid, starving a community to death, or they can be too loose, inviting in toxic behavior. And Law identifies this place kind of in between as something he calls the grace margin. And the grace margin is this place that allows movement in between our boundaries. It allows people who don't know each other that well, or maybe who have a little in common, to come together in conversation, to listen to one another, to learn from each other, without any expectation that I'm going to change you or that you're going to change me. But we find more of who we are in that grace margin. Bray McNatt situates this in our universalist values. She wrote, "We will have to learn to love each other more and in better ways than we do right now. We will have to learn to forgive each other more and in better ways than we're used to doing. We will need the universalist gifts of hope and courage." If we are really practicing what it means to be human in an ever-widening circle of humanity in our congregations, well, they may become some of the most dangerous places we know. Dangerous because they will become faithful communities of change as we call each other into that territory of the soul that distinguishes this church from a social club or a sorority or a coffee house for the vaguely spiritual. As we continue the sacred act of practicing what it means to be human together, let's be curious about one another. Just like the many fabric patterns on a quilt, that's what gives a quilt its complexity and its beauty. The differences among us here are what makes us a stronger Throop community. You and I together, we make the circle whole if we choose to. And we're going to move now into a circle of our own making, a circle representing our differences, representing the gifts that we bring into the church community. On our altar table, we have strips of ribbon and strips of yarn. There are various patterns and colors, and they represent, of course, the uniqueness in each one of you. I invite you to come down and to take a piece that calls to you. And as you do, take a special look at the beautiful painting on the altar. It was painted by Teresa's grandmother. And so another beautiful gift from our ancestors that bless our lives. And once you take your piece of ribbon, we're going to create a chain together in the congregation. This will require us to maybe dance around each other just a little bit, but we'll make a chain loop connecting all of us together. But I'm going to ask those who are near our friends on the live stream to keep that part of our circle open to symbolize that we're welcoming in our folks who are joining us online, but also that our circle is always open, ready to invite new people in. So as you feel called to, come and take your yarn or ribbon and you'll connect it to someone else's.
Break not the circle of enabling love, where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not that circle, make it wider still, till it includes, embraces all the living. Come wonder at this love that comes to life, where words of freedom are with humor spoken, and people keep no score of wrong and guilt, but will that human bonds remain unbroken.
Our chalice is extinguished. We carry its light with us. You hold in your hands a symbol of this circle of hands that holds you, this circle that is open to receive you exactly as you are today and all of who you hope to become. May this always be a circle of healing, a circle of friends, a circle of care and compassion, guiding us toward being and seeing our whole and holy selves. I love you all. Go out and love the world. We will not break the circle that you've created, but I've asked Taryn and George to help me. We're gonna kind of drape it up at the altar and across the piano. And so we'll be kind of taking it from you, and we'll enjoy our postlude by Megan.
From the light of days remembered burns a bleak and bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. On the fire of commitment sets our minds
can continue the conversation over coffee. And thank you again, Megan. Our coffee and conversation is through those back doors in Throop Hall.